This meeting is being recorded.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Hello. I'm Toni Abeyta, and just honored to be here hosting on behalf of Valerie and Dave Johnson. They're off across the pond sailing on a nice cruise. They so deserve it. And in doing so, it looks like we got the show, and it's for you. And this one's called Double TKO Explosion, because we've got two great guests that are rocking it. They are amazing. They're motivating. When I thought about who do I want to have on this, I couldn't think of two better people because they know how to come in hot. So I want to introduce, ladies first. This is Toni Goddard from Redding, California. Hey, Toni.
Good morning. Hi,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Thanks for having me, Toni.
Absolutely. And Kyle Helm from, and I heard two different places. I heard Florida, I heard Jacksonville, but tell us where.
Well, yeah, Florida is correct. Jacksonville, I try and stay away from Jacksonville just because Jacksonville, but I live in Atlantic Beach, which is the northeast corner of Florida. But if you looked at a map and you saw Jacksonville, just go to the beach and that's where I am.
Got it.
Nice.
Got it.
Thanks for having me, Toni.
Oh, so thrilled to have you. This is a wonderful collab here with the intention of, we're so excited. Avini has passed its 3-year mark, which everyone, or if you're not familiar, or I wasn't familiar until Neil pointed that out, is that every company, every new startup that comes into being a new business, if only 2% of all companies hit the 3-year mark, and we just hit it. And we're successfully going past that 3-year mark, moving forward into the future. And we can only say that we're going forward with expansion. They just purchased 15,000 more square feet to add to the factory there in Boca. And we're obviously moving into other countries while expanding into our own. And this is just an exciting time. And I wanted to get feedback from two of the best motivational leaders. And one of them just left. Okay.
No, I won't leave you, honey, I promise.
And I asked both of them to be on here because I just want to have them share their vision. You know, we're expanding, we're growing, Avini is on the move. And if it's okay with Kyle, I want to say ladies first. Can we do that? Okay. Toni Goddard, sweetheart, you're an amazing leader. You motivate. You've had experience in this industry. You've been successful with other companies. I believe you drive a Jeep or drove, where you've won vehicles and trips, and you know how this business is built. But tell us your Avini story, and what do you see, hon? What do you see?
Well, let me just start off with my story, my testimonial story, because that's kind of how this all happened, because I was never going to do this again, as a lot of us have said before. I had a terrible 2023. In 2022, I was taking care of my sister. She had ALS, and we lost her in November 2022. And my son was getting married in May of 23, and I decided to have knee surgery in December 22 just because I didn't want to have to be in pain and limping, and I wanted to be able to dance with my son at his wedding. So I had surgery December 22. 8 weeks later, I couldn't walk. I was having excruciating pain. I ended up going back to the doctor. They did a bone density check. They diagnosed me with stage 4 osteoporosis and chronic degenerative joint disease, but they wanted to do another knee replacement. And what had happened is my knee fractured. So because my bones were fragile. Well, as far as I was concerned, I don't think I wanted to have my bones drilled on anymore with that condition with my knees. So I just basically was suffering all year. So I luckily ran into our dear friend Wendy Snow at a concert. Well, actually between then and the time I ran into her, my left knee had fractured and then my right knee snapped. So I needed a double knee replacement from July on. So Wendy and I talked for a minute. I was literally trying to walk to the seat. Jerry was trying to get me to my seat with my mom. And Wendy had seen me before and she said, "Oh, Toni, you're worse. What's going on?" And I just told her. And a few days later, she got me on the phone with my Toni Abeyta, our sweet Toni Abeyta. And she said, "I just heard Toni explain to somebody why you have what osteoporosis is from." And I said, "Oh, I'd love to hear it." So Toni explained to me the reason why we have it is toxins and lead, and we needed to get the lead out. And she got me started on the Cell Defender. And so within 2 weeks, my brain cleared up. I had been getting really forgetful, and I called Toni and said, "Hey, my brain's better. What the heck's going on?" And she said, it's working. And then a week later, I was actually able to walk upright. I had not been able to walk without hanging on to stuff. I couldn't put weight on either knee. So I was literally kind of crippled. And so 3 weeks and I was able to stand upright. So my clients started seeing me. I have a beauty salon in my home. I've been here for 39 years, doing hair for 43, but I've been in my home for quite a while, and they started commenting on how I was walking. And so I started sharing it, even though I swore to the girls, don't even ask me because I'm not interested. But you know what? When we have a product like this that actually does what it does, you can't help it. You feel guilty not sharing it. So I have a very strong passion for people. I love people, and my specialty is makeovers. So I do a lot of makeovers and make people look completely different. And I love the way that makes me feel because I know it makes them feel good. So this is even way beyond that, because can you imagine what we're doing already with people with their lives? And not only just, it's not only life helping, it's life changing for so many people, and it works. And I always tell people, if you use this product correctly, it will work. You just have to be consistent. So anyway, that's how I got started. I believe in it. And I'm still kind of old school. I still love to do home meetings because I love people, and I have a great network of people locally that I can tap into. So I do that. And I got a little sidetracked. Was a question, how did I get started?
What do you see going forward? Because I did want to come back to the fact that one of your specialties is you do incredible home presentations. And I just want to point out, no one's more doggedly determined to get leaders in Redding, California than this woman. So the squeaky wheel, but she is amazing to get people together. But sweetheart, what's your vision for Avini as a company? You know, when you look at the Avini family, what do you see going forward?
Well, I see retiring my husband, who is a construction worker. He's worked construction since we were in our 20s. We've been married almost 40 years next year. And that's all, it'll bring tears to my eyes, so don't let me get started. But he's such a hard worker, and he's too old to be doing construction, too old to be doing concrete. And he's still in great shape. That's wearing on him. And that's always been my passion, is to get him home and be able to have a lifestyle before it's too late, because we're in our 60s and we want to be able to travel. And I totally see, I mean, it was so crazy because when I first got into Avini and I did start sharing it, I don't look at the money because I didn't even know the comp plan for months, because that's not why I do it. But when I started, all of a sudden there's checks in there and I'm like, what in the heck what people are buying this stuff? But the thing is, when they buy it, it works, and then they buy it again. I mean, so it's not like you have to go back and tell people, hey, you need to place an order, or do you want to buy some more products? And I would never do that. I just don't like to do that. So it's such a natural company, because when people use it, it's got such stability between our founders of our company. The people that run the show are amazing, and our product and the comp plan, it's just a perfect package. So I see having a lifestyle again, and being able to retire my husband and being able to bring him home. That's what I see.
Excellent. Oh, bravo, sweetheart. You're doing it, and your people are doing it, and they're growing, and it's, let's do the MJ.
Everybody's got their own, if you've been part of MJ's deal.
Awesome. Mr. Kyle Helm, take it away, sir.
Okay, what would you like me to say? Are we going in the same direction?
Well, I want to hear that story about your stories. You said you learned something about yourself. Let's hear it.
Oh, well, okay, that's a bigger story. I mean, and that was talking about, when we were talking about doing this thing off the cuff. So I can talk about that in a second. If you want, I can share like the brief section of my story, because maybe there's some people that don't know it. And I think it's a little unique when it comes to Avini specifically, and Neil and everything, but I won't get into all that because we'll be here all night. But I think, like the other Toni, we, definitely I am a candidate for, I'm never going to do this again, even though I've never said that. I'm more the candidate that if anybody should never do this again, it should have been me. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but for those of you that don't know me, I'm a psychologically unemployable retired rock and roll drummer from Florida. And I used to add a number to that. I used to say, I'm a 25-year-old psychologically unemployable. And then it was 26, 27, 28, 29-year-old psych. And the other day, it was at our summit when we were doing a training. I said, I'm a 40-year-old psychologically unemployable retired rock and roll drummer. And I went, man, I really got to lose that number now. It kind of lost its pizzazz, as I get older. So I say that joking because I'm not wired to clock in and clock out. Right? I've never really fit in the box. The only job that I've ever had truly was playing drums professionally. I flew all over the world, toured the world, with some incredible bands that people probably know. That was my job, right? I played drums for a living, which is incredible. And I'm super grateful I got to do that. But the other side of this is I'm married and I have 4 beautiful daughters that I love more than the sun, moon, and the stars. And I just wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. You know, I made my wife a promise when she was about 6 months pregnant with our twins. We have twin girls, that she would never have to go back to work again. So she was a stay-at-home mom. I was on tour, and I just said, I want to be a stay-at-home dad. Like, I want to be a stay-at-home dad with my wife and raise my children. And fortunately for me, I got a phone call from my dad, actually. And he said, I signed you up in my business. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I had no idea, right? Because my dad, all his life to this day, still owns and operates an auto body and paint shop. And when he said he signed me up in his business, I was confused. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about network marketing, of course. And he showed me a presentation, and that was it, right? A few days later, without going into all the details, I saw this network marketing presentation, and I just said, that's it. I can do this. And I was already in the deal. I really didn't have a choice besides to do it or not do it. And I left on tour again for a month. And I sent a couple messages to some friends of mine on MySpace. If you guys remember MySpace, like the original social media, from Germany. And this was in the time when like Wi-Fi wasn't everywhere and we had to go to internet cafes to communicate and call home and things. And I shot these messages to friends on MySpace. And when I came home from that tour a month later, I had 2 paychecks and they totaled $500 because those people got started in my business. And the checks cashed and I had the money in my hand and I said, that's it. I quit the bands and I went full-time in network marketing from that day forward, which is crazy. I failed about as bad as you could fail, right? That first year, of course, we were losing everything, losing our home. We sold our cars to pay bills. We were living on donation food boxes, but I was determined. I was not going to give up because it was the first time in years that I was happy, right? I was home with my family. I didn't care that we didn't have any money, but I was raising my girls. I was with my wife every day. And I refused to give up on the network marketing dream because through that first year, I was meeting people, going to regionals, hopping on calls like this, doing all the things you're supposed to do, being completely coachable. And I just said, if they can do it, I can do it. The only difference with me is I'm a tattooed rock and roll drummer, right? Like I'm not wearing a suit and tie and I'm not that guy. But there's no difference. I can do this. And fortunately, about a year in, I met somebody who changed my life forever. And he took me under his wing. And this was a 6-figure a month earner. And he said, stop doing everything you're doing. He goes, I know you've been taught this way by these people. He goes, stop, just quit doing that. Quit selling the comp plans, quit selling the product, quit doing all that. Just go tell people why you do this. And I said, okay. And we started, and I started telling people why I did this. And I made $21,000 that first month. Changed everything, right? I couldn't make a penny in the industry. And then all of a sudden I turned everything around. And, that brings us to here. You move forward 15 years, and I started this by saying I'm one of the candidates that should never have done this again. I mean, and what I mean by that is I had watched my entire business, right? That first business that I built, I was a top 5 income earner in that company. And I would watch chunks of my business, 300, 400, 500,000 in volume, just disappear because the owner decided that somebody else needed it more than I did. You would just move pieces of my business, right? I became a master distributor of 2 different companies. One time I woke up and went to log in and check into my back office to see how the month closed, and our company was sold to another company. I was no longer even with the company I was with. So I built this deal and had all this great stuff, and then they sold it. And then the last one, well, that I was a master distributor at, I won't even get into that, but long story made short, bad ownership, made the wrong decisions that affected everybody, and we had to start over again, which leads us to Avini. And I think that my history with Neil, and I've known Neil since 2010. He came to a home party that I was doing in Las Vegas, and that's where I met him. And we've been together ever since. Neil and I have worked a lot of different businesses together. And so Neil had been part of a lot of the journeys and the things that I had to experience, right? Which affected him as well. And you take all those things and you put them together and you go, okay, let's just not do that. Let's just do everything the opposite. And that's really kind of the birth of Avini. I mean, there's more to that and we can get into it, Toni, but for time's sake, I'll stop right there because it's, I don't know, let's see where you want to take this. But I can tell that story about, what I learned about myself that one time flying off the cuff is, and I think it's important. I think there's some pieces that people could relate to here is I was at a training in Arlington, Texas, And there were 4,000 people in this training. And it was not going to be a leadership training. It was supposed to be the two master distributors of this company, one doing 2 hours and the other doing 2 hours. And long story made short, there was a big fight. They got big argument before at like 6:30 in the morning. And the master distributor that I was working with, the gentleman that actually, really took me under his wing, he looked at me, and I had one of my business partners there. And he handed us the microphone and said, "You guys have the first 2 hours. Good luck," and walked out of the room. And this is, we're talking, this is a 2-hour training that he's supposed to do. And we have no idea what in the world we're supposed to do for 2 hours. And I will tell you what, that it was probably the most authentic and real training you could ever imagine that came off the stage between the two of us. For 2 hours, we filled that time. And it taught me a very important lesson, Toni, which was, the more I prepare for a training or a talk or anything, the worse it is, because it's not authentic, right? And when you can just fly off the cuff and talk about a subject, the truth comes out, the realness comes out, the authenticity comes out. And from that day forward, I have refused to prepare for any trainings or talks or presentations I have to give. We just wing it, because that's where the most authenticity comes out. And people really get those nuggets that they're always looking to find when we're not trying to script them, And so from that day forward, and that was in 2012, excuse me. So for 13 years, I've been going off the cuff. And every time I've spoke at different companies and things, they knew not to tell me what I was going to speak about. They would call me, your call time. They wouldn't tell me my call time or my time to be on stage until about 10 minutes before. That you're up in 10 minutes. They'd hand a mic and I'd say, "What am I talking about?" And they'd say, "You're talking about this." And I'd say, "Go." 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it was. And that's how we've done it. So I learned that about myself, but that's how we can be very authentic with people and really get the best material to everyone, is just winging it. So there you go, Toni. Quick little story there.
I just learned something about us, Kyle. We have a similar background. You just said your dad signed you up in a company when you didn't even know it, right?
Yes.
My mom did the same thing to me. She did the exact same thing to me. And I'm like, I already have 2 jobs. I manage and train major food chain, nutrition chain in the country on the West Coast. And I was also managing a health. Do everybody remember those health writers?
Oh, yeah.
The machines, those little kiosks. I managed all day. And then at night, I managed a kiosk. And then I get signed into everybody's favorite beginning Japanese magnetic health company that we all know Dave Johnson through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mom throws me in there and I'm like, I can't anymore. But we have that in common. And I have to tell you that that's part of my story I want to share is Mom put the bug in me, and my dad did too.
Yeah.
And Dad was always pushing relationship. Like Dad was kind of the reluctant communicator, but he was really good at it. And Mom wanted a dream for her daughter. I love her to pieces because she said, "Sweetheart, we're involving you. We're creating this for you because we want freedom for you." And her phrase was, and I can't believe that she knew this word. She says, "I want you beholden to no one in your lifetime, no one." And it didn't grasp until as time went forward and the bugs started getting in me, like you, Kyle, you make this paycheck and you're like, "Oh my gosh, where did this come from?"
Yeah.
And it's all through the collateral of relationships.
It is, of course.
It's the relationship bond, which I know everyone here understands that people gravitate to you because you are authentic, you are truthful, and it just pours out. And so exciting that we have that in our background.
Yes, absolutely.
And to realize that 15 years ago when you met Neil in 2010 and we're here now as a result, and he values your input and your collaboration so much. We're so grateful to you.
Well, thank you.
Grateful
one of these days I'll have to tell you guys that story. Yeah, it is a much longer story and we don't have time for that today, but the story of meeting Neil and Claire is hilarious. And you want to talk about authentic and truthful. I mean, it's a great story. So I'll have to tell that with you guys sometime.
We're going to have Dave have us back on and we're going to get it.
Here we can do 2.0 here.
2.0 for sure. Guys, I just love this because Toni Goddard is on the West Coast. Yeah. Kyle is on the East Coast, and we're just blowing it up, and we're going to meet in the middle,
Yeah. And you're right about that, Toni. And I don't know if you want to jump into something else, but you talk about, I just said that 2.0 is kind of a joke, but we talk about East Coast and West Coast unification meeting in the middle. And I think everybody that's watching, what's about to happen at Avini, we're talking about the vision in the future and things like that. And what do we see? And there's things that I know, right? There's things that I know that are happening right now. And Toni, you might be a little bit on the inside of this too, to some extent, but this unification that's coming, that's going to put all the leadership together, working for the same common goal, which we've all been, but now in a more unified way, is going to be the most powerful thing I think anybody's ever seen. I think this 2.0 push, as we'll just use that terminology right now, is going to make people's head spins to see the unification that comes, right? Meeting in the middle, that's an understatement, I think, right? Like, I think you're going to meet me over here and I'm going to meet you over there because of what's happening, right? This new direction and some of the changes that we're about to make, that I think, we did things. You spoke in regards to making that 3-year mark, which is huge. And Neil was talking about 2%, and I don't know if people realize this, but like more than that, it's about, I don't even know. We won't get into it. The majority of new network marketing companies fail within their first 8 months. 2% of those left over make it to 3 years. So we're talking like even less. And what we've done, and I say we, but it's really Neil, what he did that was extremely smart was he built our company on substance, not on hype, right? And now we have a platform that we've built something so tremendously solid on substance, a phenomenal product line that truly makes a difference, and a phenomenal compensation plan that we put a lot of time into developing, right? So now the thing is, most companies start with the opposite.
It's 12 o'clock.
It's hot hype and nonsense, right? And that gets people excited with mediocre products and a mediocre comp plan. And then when it reveals itself that none of it is really that good, then the hype goes away and the company's done. Where we built the opposite. We built on realness and substance. Now it's time we can make it super exciting and add some stuff into it that doesn't take away from the greatness of what we've been able to create for 3 years and the stability, which is going to send us to the moon, right? It's going to put us in a whole new atmosphere. And that's what's coming, Toni. That's what's coming.
It was wonderful to have that time with Neil traveling to Redding, California to visit with Toni and other cities just 2 weeks ago, and spending that quality time side by side with Neil and just really brainstorming and getting a sense, reassuring that I agree with you, Kyle. The foundation was completely solid. Yeah. The culture the product works, the playpen works. And our relationships are what create the culture. Now to really expand and take that to the next dimension, we're bringing leadership together in unification, so that it's not this team over here and this team over here. No, we're coming together because it's a big love fest here. We realize where we're going, and if we are not unified, we can't experience what's coming in the full vision that we want to bring. And it's going to be energetic. It's in development. And Neil, we hope we're listening.
Yes.
We know you are, but it is exciting. And, there's, at least we have an open welcoming to what is coming. So
Toni, I was going to say, can I pop in here?
Yeah.
I love what Kyle said about being off the cuff, because it's so much easier to not be super structured. But luckily, we have someone like Neil who listens to us and knows we need guidance and we need some kind of an outline. And I've always been working on one for quite a while. And I'm so grateful. He gave us the reins to be able to set it up and work on that. So because you can't really bring new people in and say, just wing it, because they got to have something to go by. So that's why we're going to blow it up, because we're going to have something that will be something that they can actually have an outline to follow. And then they can get in between, wing stories. That makes any sense.
It's coming, Toni. I promise you.
I just do want to make a little, what do they call those little stories that teach you something? Oh, shoot. A
fable?
Whatever. Okay. We're going to have some bumps, right? And we probably had a few along the way, but I got this little thing. I love this, the little black book of connections, right? And there was a story inside about how does a lobster actually grow, right? How does a lobster grow? Because it's kind of mushy and soft on the inside, but it's hard shell on the outside. and found it fascinating. I didn't really know, how did they get outside of that shell and grow another one? How do they do that, right? Well, the lobster has to go into a rock crevice and protect itself against predators, but he's uncomfortable on the inside because he's already expanding on the inside, and he has to bang that crusty shell to crack it and escape and then recreate a whole new one. So there's a bit of risk, there's a bit of discomfort, just like our company's growing pains, right? We're going to go through these, and we've probably seen a few, but what we get is a bigger lobster. We get a bigger lobster.
Yes, we do.
So, and Toni, you're absolutely right. I love that you have these. Why I wanted Toni to come on as well is her experience is one with just actually several of the most successful or large network marketing companies in the past. And what they had was exceptional training and formats, horrible pay plans. We won't say the names, unfortunate, but that's why we have her. And because she sees what we have, the quality of the products, the foundation, the pay plan, etc. Now we get to listen to someone like Toni to say, I'm going to take what we learned in the past, which is what we all get to do, and create something that is the format, but not structured. Every individual has the freedom to do what they need to do, because Neil gives us, and this was something he said, we're all responsible for our own businesses, right? He's not going to tell us how to build our business as long as we're compliant.
That's it.
Right? As long as we're not.
It's called a system. We all need a system. And we have to follow the same system. So like if I were to have people over on the East Coast where Kyle is, and I have, I want them to join his presentation, I would want them to see the same thing they would see here and kind of get it. It's a very simple system. You've got to keep it simple.
Yep. You're right. You're right, Toni. And I promise you, Toni, and the other Toni knows this too. That's what's coming. That's what's being built. That's what's being created, is that system that I think is it will be plug and play. Like for anybody that gets started with Avini will have a system from start to finish that if they choose to follow, could absolutely just blow up and explode their business, but it will be unified across the board from East Coast to West Coast and everywhere in between. You're going to know exactly what we're going to send people to. And I'm with you on the home parties. So I'm excited because that's going to be the biggest piece of the whole deal.
Me too, because it's a touch.
Yeah. And after COVID, people are waiting for it. They want it back.
Yeah. We love connection. Yeah. And there's nothing like having a room full of people with the same vision and the same goals to get together and then bring new people in and have them be able to see the camaraderie and the conviction that people have when they start telling their stories. It's amazing. I can't believe I love everything other people do. I'm always open to guide my team wherever they want to go. If they want to do social media or, one-on-ones or whatever, that's fine. Zooms or whatever. But man, there's nothing like the energy in a room whenever everybody's all on the same page and people are getting it. Our numbers are wonderful. The new people that get in when they come to a home meeting or come, to, a group meeting, because they just see the conviction. It's just, we're all real. And it really is. It is a great company with a great support team. We're so blessed, great comp plan. Everything is in place. So we are ready to ride the road, make momentum.
Yes.
We promised to keep this at 30 minutes so we wouldn't go on and on. We brought really just energy to you today. We do want to encourage you. Today is the last day to get your early bird tickets for Summit in August. Yes. Kyle, did you not get your ticket?
No, I'm just saying that's right. Like we need to, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great point.
There's some great stuff happening in August at the Tuscany in Las Vegas in August. And don't forget, if you can fly into Salt Lake City June 21st, and I was corrected because on my Monday morning call, I said it was the 14th. So sorry, it's the 21st in Salt Lake City. Come in and join us for Friday the night before for dinner and training and or presentation, and the next day, all day with Rick and the corporate team. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any things you want to say? Because I can see Kyle is ready. He's like a pistol, it's like that bullet is loaded.
You
right?
know what? I have something I want to end this with that kind of popped up based on our conversations and from both Tonys here and us talking about unification and talking about the same vision, the same everything, right? It's one thing for me to say I'm Kyle Helm. I'm a psychologically unemployable retired rock and roll drummer, but I am Kyle Helm and I am Avini. And Toni, you are Avini. And Toni, you are Avini.
I am.
Absolutely.
And so, guys, we are Avini. I am Kyle Helm, and we are Avini.
Avini, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm going
my
to
tattoos, by the way.
identify now. Do it. I am identifying as I am Avini. I think that's,
Avini.
and if
We
we
are
all,
Avini.
that's our goal, right? We're unified. I
We
am
are.
Avini.
That is
We
our goal.
are
Yeah.
Avini.
Flag planted.
Yep,
Flag
done.
Yeah.
planted,
That is
man.
my.
Not going.
That's how we bring everybody together, understanding that we are one team with one vision. We are Avini. And I am Kyle Helm, and I am Avini.
I am Toni.
You're awesome, Kyle.
This is my sister Toni. My other sister Toni. And we will see you very soon. Stay tuned. We love you all. If there was any questions or comments, we've got a question and answer thing here. Oh, anonymous attendee saying reading the Little Golden Book connections. Yes, great. Thank you. Great energy. Love you all too. Thank you. Yes, we are analog and going strong.